All right, everyone. Today we're playing Halo 2 in 2025. I'm going to start off by saying, guys, I apologize for the horrible gameplay. I was never good at Halo. I'm just going to be honest about that. So if you're looking for some amazing, high-skilled gameplay, you have unfortunately come to the wrong place. I am humble enough to admit that. But we're going to just have a little bit of a discussion as far as player count, as far as how much the game still has left in it 21 years later. It was 2004 when it first released. So yeah, obviously the most popular way to play this game online is through the Master Chief Collection. There are servers for the original Xbox that have been restored that occasionally a couple of people will go on and play, but really you're better off just sticking with the MCC. You have crossplay and everything, but I'm sure that's something like 90% of you watching this video are already aware of. As far as how many people are still playing, we don't actually have full player counts because Microsoft doesn't reveal that publicly for pretty much any of their online games. But the MCC, we have no idea exactly how many. But I'll say from my experience, anecdotally, of all the MCC games, this is the third most populated. Halo 3 is the most by a long shot, and then it's Halo Reach. Halo 2, I noticed I spend a little bit longer actually getting into a match, but I am able to get into matches relatively easily. There's very little waiting time playing social games, and obviously you have custom servers as well with the server browser. But yeah, 4v4 is definitely a lot easier. 8v8 takes a little bit longer to actually find games, and the larger scale modes take a little bit more time. But overall, Halo 2 is in a pretty good place in 2025, and I think for a game that came out 21 years ago, the game is legally old enough to drink. I think that, considering that, it is aged quite well between the gunplay, the map design, the overall package. Even the graphics, I don't think look that bad. But I also grew up around this time. This is when I first got into gaming, was around this era. So I might be a little biased. If you were born like 10 plus years after I was, you might be looking at this game and be like, oh my god, this is ugly, it's horrible, it is so old and outdated, and oh no. But trust me, if you look past that, I think you will have a really good time. If you never played Halo 2 before, let's say the only Halo game you played is Infinite, I am very sorry if that is the case. Halo 2 is considered one of the greatest Halo games ever made. Me personally, 3 is probably my favorite, but I'm not trying to start a whole war in the comment section because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debate as far as which one is the best. I even have seen some posts online saying that 5 or Infinite were the best Halo games, and these were obviously younger folks that never even played the old games ever in their life. But Halo 2 is still, to this day, very sweaty, very competitive. I was completely out of my league playing this game. I mean, I've played it before, obviously, but I was obviously very rusty because the last time I played it was for my Halo 2 video last year in 2024, and I really only play it every once in a while. But this type of game, you really need to understand the weapon placements and the map design, and really like have a lot of knowledge and experience when it comes to all that. When it comes to all the mechanics, that someone like me, that's just a casual player, oh yeah, gonna be in for a rude awakening, and I certainly was in this game. And especially if you're playing the MCC, if you have like all the Halo games on your playlist, going from one to the other, it's like so jarring because each game has their own meta. Like with Combat Evolved, the pistols is like the main weapon people use, but in Halo 2 it's the battle rifle. Just the balancing and overall experience is vastly different across every single Halo game that, yeah, it could be tough sometimes to adjust. But I'd say it's a must-play game for anyone who's a sci-fi fan or a Halo fan overall. It's a really fun game and a really good game that really defined online multiplayer, especially for consoles. This was like the birth of Xbox Live, basically, was Halo 2. And remember the whole story when the servers were shut down by Microsoft? There were people who were still playing and refused to let this game die and to let it go. So it's a very iconic game, very important piece of video game history, and I would say, in a lot of ways, it might have been the most important game that the Halo series has ever had, and that Microsoft has ever had, because it laid the groundwork for the future. Obviously, Combat Evolved did, because it was the first one, but in terms of Xbox Live and console gaming and console FPS games, this was really like a pioneer in a lot of ways, because Combat Evolved was released before Xbox Live itself was created, so it didn't come with actual online multiplayer support. It had LAN support, but no one was going to grab a bunch of consoles and start a 16-player LAN party on Xbox. It just, so it was a lot different back then. Halo 2 was certainly a turning point. I would consider it probably like among the top 10 impactful online multiplayer games in the history of the gaming industry. And it's still in 2025 a great game to play, has aged like a fine wine, and is easy for me to recommend. 20 years later, the campaign, multiplayer, the entire package is still going to give you so many hours of fun and enjoyment. It's one of the best games ever made.